Boeing 727 lands in the middle of nowhere in the dark. By sunrise, the plane is gone. So is 15 tons of cocaine. No shootout, no chase, no arrests. The men already on site were wearing federal police uniforms. This wasn't violence, this was logistics. And it's how Amado Carrillo Fuentes moved more cocaine than anyone else in history. Without leaving the kind of blood trail television teaches you to expect, a jet that size isn't subtle. The noise isn't subtle. The heat isn't subtle. A plane like that needs a runway, fuel, timing, and people who know exactly what to do with a problem that can't be left sitting in daylight. So when it vanishes, you're not looking at a clever escape, you're looking at coordination. The kind that doesn't rely on speed, it relies on permission, not a stamped form you can hold. Something quieter, a phone call that makes the right person look away, a uniform that turns a question into a mistake, a flight plan that turns suspicion into procedure. Narcos trains you to look for the gun. This story is about the flight plan, because the real power move isn't a shootout. It's when something the size of a passenger jet touches down, and then the cargo, the crew and the proof all disappear, and the man behind it stays almost invisible, on purpose, so invisible that when the world finally hears he's dead, half of Mexico doesn't believe it. On television, the cartel boss is always present, walking into rooms, making speeches, smiling for the camera. In contemporaneous reporting, Amado Carrillo Fuentes is described as the opposite. Meticulous, elusive, rarely seen in public. Even his nickname, Lord of the Skies, is misunderstood. It doesn't come from charisma, it comes from math. Boeing 727s used for bulk shipments up to 15 tons at a time. 15 tons isn't a load, it's an operation. And once you understand that scale, the visibility problem becomes unsettling. How does someone move that much and leave so little image behind? There's a story from the mid-1990s that reads less like a crime report and more like a manual for erasing evidence. A passenger jet comes down at night on a remote lakebed in Baja California Sur. By sunrise, local police arrive. Too late. Men in federal police uniforms are already there. They're chopping, burning and burying the aircraft. The cargo, cocaine, officials believed, has already been unloaded. Then it's gone. The men are gone too. That's the real meaning of Lord of the Skies. A converted airliner. A landing strip that doesn't exist on maps. Uniforms that look official until you remember uniforms can be bought. Another aircraft is later spotted flying the coast under a previously filed flight plan. Authorities take no action. On paper it's legitimate until it disappears. This isn't smuggling, it's paperwork camouflage. And the contradiction sits right there. If the system is strong enough to track jets, why is a filed flight plan the thing that makes them untouchable? 15 tons sounds abstract until you force it into the real world. It doesn't move with a few hands and a few minutes. It needs time, equipment, people who don't ask questions, vehicles positioned in advance, not late, not improvising, light at night, darkness in the paperwork, a place wide enough to accept a jet, and quiet enough that the sound doesn't become a siren. A runway that exists, but officially doesn't. And then comes the part nobody likes to say out loud. Every kilogram has to become smaller things. Boxes, bundles, loads on loads, a chain of hands that can't hesitate, a chain of decisions that can't wobble, because the plane is only the loudest moment. The real miracle is what happens after. That cargo has to dissolve into roads, rooms, trucks, hiding places, routines, without slowing down, without piling up, without becoming visible. Stare at that long enough and it stops feeling like crime. It starts feeling like infrastructure. By the mid-1990s, officials describe Carrillo Fuentes as a different type. He avoids flamboyance and he compromises with rivals. That isn't romance, that's management. Because flash attracts heat, noise creates enemies. So when Narcos frames cartel power as personality, it misses what made him dangerous. You can see it in how violence is outsourced. In 1995, nearly a dozen gunmen walk into a Mexico City restaurant. Machine guns carried like briefcases. They open fire. They kill bodyguards. Carrillo Fuentes and his family survive by diving under a table and walking out into the night. Then comes the detail that breaks the scene. investigators believe the hitmen were badge-carrying cops on someone else's payroll. So what are we watching? A cartel boss attacked in public by men who look like the state, while other men around him also carry badges. In fiction, that's a twist. In reality, it's the business model. If badges are on both sides, who exactly is hunting who? Forget the montage of bricks and duffel bags. The real asset was a corridor. The Juarez-El Paso route, a primary pathway north, and hidden inside that route is something colder than smuggling, taxation. Carrillo's organisation charged other groups to use it. Not just moving product, owning the toll road. That's power that doesn't need speeches, it needs routes. And routes don't care who runs them, as long as they stay open. Once you build something this large, you can't hide it forever. Pressure rises, and when it does, the man who built the system tries to do what the system always did best: disappear. On screen, a kingpin dies in a hail of bullets. In real reporting, Carrillo Fuentes is said to die under fluorescent lights. Early July 1997, a Mexico City hospital. A body under a false name, Antonio Flores Montes. The DEA administrator later describes a 9-hour operation. Facial surgery, liposuction. At first, prosecutors won't confirm with total certainty that the corpse is him. That hesitation matters, because it creates space. Later, authorities say the identification is confirmed through forensic comparison, including fingerprints. So the grounded reality is this: they treated identity like a forensic problem, and they said they solved it. But the contradiction never goes away. If his entire career was built on making reality deniable, through uniforms, routes, paper, why would the ending be any different? Confirmed is a clean word. People distrust clean words, not because they want fantasy, but because the human brain hates neat endings to messy stories. His life was built on distance, on not being seen, on always being somewhere else. So when the ending arrives as a report, a body under another name behind hospital doors, it doesn't feel like closure. It feels like another layer. Doubt becomes reflex, not theory. And once doubt exists, the last people near the truth become dangerous. Months after the surgery, one of the doctors believed to have operated on him is found dead, stuffed into a cement-filled barrel, along with 2 other bodies. Other doctors disappear. You don't need conspiracy. The verified facts already do enough damage. If the identity was settled by science, why were witnesses erased like a secret? Narcos loves the idea that killing the king ends the kingdom. Reality is colder. After his death, the organisation continues. The corridor keeps working. Multi-ton quantities keep moving. A body becomes closure for headlines. The route remains open. That may be the most accurate thing about his nickname. Not that he ruled the skies, that he treated the sky like infrastructure. And in the end, he does what the planes in Baja did. He leaves behind paperwork. He leaves behind a story that sounds too clean to trust. A man becomes an absence, but the system he scaled stays visible. Everyday dash dash. In the one place pop culture never looks, the roots.